So this is a really weird video to make at this point in time, but I just wanted to talk about Oden and Rayleigh for a minute here. Because I've seen there recently through a lot of videos and through a lot of discussion online, now a lot of people now think that Oden, but just before he died, so when he was fighting Kaido, is now somehow stronger than Prime Rayleigh. Like second in command to the Pirate King, Gold D Roger. Why do I do this? Alright. Oh no, I just wanted to talk about it for a bit because I feel like it's a very interesting topic. Because I don't know, it's a very vague topic because do we really think Rayleigh could like take down Kaido? Because it was implied heavily that Oden is strong enough that if it if if the Momonosuke thing didn't happen, Oden would take down Kaido. Now, if we just assume that meant normal hybrid and all that Kaido, no awakening for a minute. So let's say he didn't know about Kaido's awakening, which I doubt he did because I doubt they talked about God Valley that much. But then he also found out about the One Piece, so I'm sure he knows about it. So it's a bit iffy in that regard. You don't actually know a lot about whether God Valley is involved or if he would know about God Valley. And then he wouldn't have an awakening at that point because he only got the fruit near the end of it. So I guess that doesn't make sense. But I would have to say, still think Rayleigh's stronger, personally, right? In my opinion. There's a lot of different reasons why. I feel like Rayleigh is always portrayed as the equal to Roger. And like, I mean in power, so like he's just as strong as Roger in my eyes. Maybe a bit weaker. Kind of like where Luffy, like if I was to make a comparison, it's kind of like, so Luffy currently now has this Joy Boy form, but I believe the difference in power between Rayleigh and Roger was like the same difference in power between Luffy before awakening and Zoro as he was fighting King. They both had conquerors, and they were both like equally as strong, but there were just certain things and certain uses of the power that made Roger stronger. In my opinion, right? Like Rayleigh was basically the Shadow King of like kind of like think of it this way. Naruto's the Hokage, Sasuke's the Shadow Kage, or whatever people are calling it in Boruto these days. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it with Rayleigh or Roger and Rayleigh. So the idea that Oden over the course of a few years got that strong because he was obviously number 3 on the Roger Pirates and number 2 obviously on the Blackbeard or Whitebeard Pirates. So it's tough. It is really tough to say. Like there's a lot of different variables. I would say though, Oden has a lot of potential though. He was on he fought against Whitebeard, whose Devil Fruit is like devastating, and at the same time, Whitebeard was also a competitor to Roger, and we know Oden was probably around that level because Kaido and Whitebeard had to be similar enough. Like it's a kind of non-starter, really, this argument, but it is interesting to think about. Like it's really based on story, a lot of this, because it's never gonna happen unless we see like a prequel anime or manga after the series ends. It is interesting though to think about because Oden to be stronger than Rayleigh in my eyes. Oden would have to go from being able to be defeated by one attack from Roger to being able to hold his own against Roger in a matter of years, which I mean is possible because we've seen growth rates in One Piece to be astronomically high. And then there's also the argument that, well, Kaido is the strongest creature in the world, and Oden was arguably stronger than Kaido. And, well, Kaido believes so anyway. He believes he would have lost to Oden. At least that's the vibe I get off him. That's why he feels so disrespected when Yamato says she's Oden, because he believes that she's nowhere near that power. At this point in time, this discussion basically relies on the idea of Kaido's word to make Oden even considerable to Rayleigh. Like I know Rayleigh doesn't have many feats, so we're going off his status and kind of his title. His title is the Dark King, right? So obviously, if he was given the title king when Roger had the Pirate King Gold D. Roger, right? Obviously, the world government held him in similar regard to Roger. So obviously they held him like he's almost equally as strong as Roger. I don't know. Maybe maybe I'm talking out of my ass, which happens a lot. Don't get me wrong, but like to me that insinuates that he's strong as Roger, and I just do not see the idea of Oden being that powerful. I don't really. But then how strong has Kaido gotten in these 20 years? Like he was 40 odd then, he was 60 odd now. But we don't know when the rate of deterioration happens in One Piece. We know it's around 70, but does it happen earlier? Because is 60 considered your prime in One Piece? Because it seems like they're saying that Kaido's in his prime at the minute, and Big Mom is in her prime at the minute in terms of power, in terms of how strong they are. But I just don't know. I really don't. Because if we assume for a minute that Kaido was way weaker when he fought Oden, then you could say, oh well, Oden is probably on the same level as Luffy currently. Maybe like current Luffy who's fighting Kaido at the minute. If Kaido was stronger back in the day or weaker back in the day, it would make sense for Oden to be all as strong as current Luffy, and then he was as strong as Zoro currently is when he met Roger. That's kind of where I would place him because I believe personally that Kaido was weaker back in the day. But then it's if Kaido was stronger back in the day because of age and shit like that, and just generally, it's kind of like then it's a different discussion because then you're saying, okay, Oden is in a tier, is in quite a high tier at the minute, and he's held in a lot more regard by the people of Wano and even Whitebeard than Rayleigh seems to be. So by people who are worthy enough, he's held in such high regard. So it's like it's a really tough to answer and almost impossible to be honest. I do personally believe Rayleigh though. I think the story portrays Rayleigh as Roger's equal, and on top of the fact that we've seen Oden get demolished by Roger, and we've seen Roger stronger than Whitebeard, and we've seen Oden fight on even keel with Whitebeard. On top of the fact that even now, Kaido mentions in the recent chapter that Roger reached the top of the world. He was the strongest with no devil fruit and just hockey. So if we believe Oden, or if we believe Rayleigh is the sequel, which is what I'm going off of, then we're saying okay, that would automatically put Oden out of the running for this. So I guess not definitively, but in my opinion, Oden is weaker than Rayleigh, and Oden before he died was still weaker than Rayleigh, and Rayleigh was still stronger. But if you take certain like statements into, if you think Kaido is stronger or equally as strong as he was 20 years ago, then it's more arguable. But most likely Rayleigh is stronger still. Not still, not in the 70-year-old Rayleigh. 70-year-old Rayleigh is not as strong as 40-year-old Oden. Is that how old he was when he died? I don't know.